Beneath the shiny surface of the internet we all know, Google, YouTube, Facebook, there exists another world, a world hidden in the shadows where search engines dare not look. This is the dark web, a lawless frontier of anonymity, untraceable money, and forbidden marketplaces. And at its center once stood the Silk Road, the largest online black market in history, an empire of drugs, weapons, forged identities, and whispered contracts for violence. They called it the Amazon of drugs, a place where anything and everything could be delivered to your doorstep with just a few clicks. But the strangest part of all was not the site itself. It was the man behind it, Ross Ulbricht, a polite, bookish Texan with a physics degree, once described by friends as the sweetest guy you'd ever meet. And yet, this same young man built a billion-dollar empire of crime, shielded by the invisible cloak of the dark web. How does someone go from Boy Scout to the world's most wanted cyber kingpin? Ross Ulbricht wasn't born a criminal. He was born a dreamer, a restless mind, always chasing the next big idea, but failing again and again, until one obsession stuck. A vision of an online marketplace with no rules, no government interference. Ross was a libertarian to his core. He believed people should decide for themselves what to put in their bodies. To him, the war on drugs was tyranny, disguised as law. Then came a breakthrough. He discovered Tor, a military-grade browser designed to cloak identities in absolute secrecy, and Bitcoin, the new digital currency that left no trail. Suddenly, the impossible was possible. From his laptop, in the stillness of his bedroom, Ross began writing the code for what he would call Silk Road, a name borrowed from the ancient trade routes of Asia. But unlike merchants carrying spices and silk, this road would carry substances far more dangerous. And the very first listing? Magic mushrooms, cultivated by Ross himself. By early 2011, the Silk Road was live. At first, just a handful of drug listings, but its growth was unstoppable. Word spread through underground forums, and soon, orders were pouring in. Ross, hiding behind his keyboard, watched as his creation snowballed into a global network. From padded envelopes slipping through the mail to Bitcoin transactions flashing across screens, the Silk Road became a system that felt untouchable. A rating system, like eBay, but for narcotics, built trust. Buyers came for weed, cocaine, MDMA, heroin. Sellers offered fake passports, counterfeit cash, hacking tools, even poisons. The Silk Road was no longer just a market. It was a movement, a community, a rebellion against authority. Users gathered on forums, swapped stories, and even held movie nights online where hundreds would stream films together. One favorite? V for Vendetta, a fitting anthem for their fight against control. But what began as a digital utopia of freedom soon spiraled into something far darker. Among Silk Road's millions of users, one name rose above the rest: Variety Jones. More than just a vendor, he became Ross's secret advisor, his mentor in the shadows. Jones warned him, "What we're doing makes you a drug kingpin in the eyes of the law. The penalty is death, or life without parole." To protect himself, Ross adopted a new identity: the Dread Pirate Roberts, a name borrowed from The Princess Bride, where a legendary outlaw's identity was passed down, like a crown. If the authorities ever came close, Ross could claim he was just one in a chain of pirates, not the mastermind. With his new alias, the ruler of Silk Road stepped fully into the role of kingpin. And as the site exploded, $500,000 in sales per week, tens of millions in Bitcoin, stashed on encrypted drives. The empire was no longer a secret corner of the internet. It was a colossus. But power always brings enemies. And soon, whispers of death, betrayal, and federal agents in the shadows would begin circling closer to the dread pirate Roberts. The hunt for the elusive, dread pirate Roberts consumed entire U.S. agencies, the FBI, the DEA, Homeland Security, all chasing shadows across the dark web. Yet the biggest breakthrough didn't come from a cyber expert or an elite task force. It came from Gary Alford, an IRS agent, with no background in Bitcoin, no training in Tor, no digital forensics. Gary wasn't a hacker. He was a detail-obsessed investigator who believed in one thing: simple mistakes, like the Son of Sam killer, caught by parking tickets, near murder scenes. Gary suspected Ross Ulbricht had left behind his own digital parking ticket, so he combed through the earliest mentions of Silk Road online, using advanced Google searches, and there it was, a 2011 forum post from a user named Altoid, casually mentioning Silk Road. Digging deeper, Gary found more posts from the same alias, one even advertising a Bitcoin startup job, asking applicants to reply to rossulbrich@gmail.com. A single slip, buried in old forums, and suddenly, the mask of the world's most secretive outlaw had cracked. Gary dug further. Ross's YouTube channel, his libertarian writings on LinkedIn, even a coding question once posted under his real name, before being hastily changed to Frosty. The threads began to weave together, and what the FBI had missed for years, an IRS agent had uncovered. Ross Ulbricht was almost certainly the man behind the Silk Road. By 2013, the FBI had gone beyond suspicions. They had cracked into Silk Road's Icelandic server, watching in real time as its admin logged in and out. And every single login matched perfectly with Ross Ulbricht's laptop activity in San Francisco. But there was a problem. If Ross closed that laptop, everything inside, millions in Bitcoin, admin chat logs, orders, diaries, would be locked forever, behind unbreakable encryption. They couldn't just storm in. They needed him, caught red-handed. So, on October 1st, 2013, federal agents followed Ross into the San Francisco Public Library. He sat quietly, hidden in a corner, logged into Silk Road as dread pirate Roberts. Around him, the library wasn't filled with readers. It was crawling with undercover FBI agents, waiting for the perfect moment. Then, it happened. A staged argument erupted behind him. Ross turned his head for just a split second, and in that second, an agent lunged forward, ripping the laptop from his hands, while others cuffed him from behind. On his unlocked screen was Silk Road's admin panel. Username, Frosty. Inside the computer, a diary detailing the creation of Silk Road, chat logs with vendors, records of every move he had ever made. The boy from Texas, who once dreamed of free markets, had just been unmasked as the ruler of the largest black market in history. The dread pirate Roberts had been caught. But as investigators combed through Ross's seized laptop, the story took a bizarre, almost cinematic twist. Hidden in chat logs and transaction records, they uncovered something explosive. 2 federal agents, working on the Silk Road case, had secretly been on Ross's payroll. DEA agent Carl Force, posing as a drug smuggler under the alias Knob, feeding Ross inside information, while pocketing more than $750,000 in Bitcoin. His partner in betrayal? Secret Service agent Sean Bridges, using his access to siphon Silk Road funds straight into his own accounts, disguising theft as moderator activity. And it didn't stop there. When moderator Curtis Green was arrested, Ross believed he had been betrayed. Money missing, silence from a trusted ally. Desperate, he turned to his shadowy advisors. And together, they convinced him to send a brutal message. Ross ordered a hit. But the so-called execution? It was staged by Force himself. He sent Ross a photo of Curtis's fake death, just to squeeze out more Bitcoin. In his journal, Ross confessed, "I'm new to this kind of thing," he wrote. But soon, ordering hits became just another part of business. Yet the truth was stranger than fiction. None of the murders were real. Ross had been scammed by corrupt agents, by fake hitmen, paying thousands for killings that never happened. Meanwhile, the FBI quietly built their case, and the myth of the untouchable Dread Pirate Roberts was unraveling from the inside. The trial of Ross Ulbricht was nothing short of a modern-day spectacle. 7 federal charges, drug trafficking, money laundering, and the kingpin statutes, once reserved only for cartel lords. His defense argued Silk Road was just a social experiment, a digital free market that had spiraled beyond his control. They claimed Ross had sold it to another Dread Pirate Roberts, that he was just a scapegoat. But the evidence? It was devastating. Ross had been caught with his laptop, open, logged in, as the admin of Silk Road. Chat logs stretched back years, detailing site operations, fake IDs, even the moment he and Variety Jones invented the very name Dread Pirate Roberts as an alibi. Messages matched perfectly with real-world events, like Ross ordering fake IDs. At the same time, authorities intercepted them. And the story of him selling the site? It crumbled. Bitcoin commissions still flowed, straight into his accounts. Outside the courthouse, supporters gathered. They called him a hero. They argued he had only built a platform, no different from eBay or Craigslist. But inside, the jury saw something else. A man who had built a digital empire, where heroin, cocaine, and lethal opioids were just a click away. They found him guilty, on all counts. Before sentencing, Ross wrote to the judge. He pleaded, "Please leave me a small light at the end of the tunnel, a chance to dream of better days." But the judge was unmoved. She declared Silk Road had caused irreparable harm. Families destroyed, addicts created, lives lost, and she made an example of him. 2 life sentences, plus 40 years, no parole. Ross Ulbricht would never walk free again. To some, it was justice. To others, a tragedy of wasted potential. And yet, even behind bars, one fact remains undeniable. Ross built the most powerful black market in digital history. In just over 2 years, Silk Road processed more than 1.2 million transactions, generating over 9.5 million Bitcoin, worth billions today, a fortune lost, a dream twisted, a life condemned. In the end, Ross's fate mirrored the show he once idolized, Breaking Bad. A man who started with ideals, but drowned in the power. the money, the darkness, he unleashed. And just like Walter White, the story of the dread pirate Roberts did not end in glory. It ended in chains. And so, the rise and fall of Ross Ulbricht became more than just a trial. It became a warning, a legend, a turning point in the history of the internet. But one thing is certain: Ross Ulbricht may be locked away forever, yet the shadow of Silk Road will never truly disappear. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Do you think Ross was a freedom fighter or a criminal mastermind? Your thoughts might just spark the next big discussion. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss the next chapter in history's most dramatic stories.